Since 2003, this is the Sports Source, East Tennessee's #1 sports talk show.
Presented by Pipe Wrench, and by Junk Be Gone, and by the Garza Law Firm.
With your host, John Pennington. The Sports Source starts now.
Good Sunday morning and welcome into the Junk Be Gone studios for the Sports Source as we start our 21st season. Thanks to you, thanks to a lot of sponsors who've been with us all that time for getting us to season 21. Tennessee kicked off their season with a big 49-13 victory over Virginia yesterday. We got people, we got VFLs, we got media guys, we got 9 people in here to break this thing down for you today, including offense, defense, Joe Milton, maybe a little Nico. We'll talk rugby, punts, you name it, it's in this show. Plus, we got polls and pick segments that you can take part in. So let's get interactive. Let's start this segment. It's brought to you, the show, first segment, brought to you by our friends at Junk Be Gone. Yet another season of UT football, yet another year of Junk Be Gone, bringing you this show. Mike Such and his team are just a tremendous example of what a local family-run business can become. Thousands of area residents and businesses use them to clear out their junk, their old furniture, you got an old shed out back, they'll come demolish the thing and take it off. They can do it. You should use them too. JunkBeGone.biz to learn more. I can't say enough good things about them. Like most of the clients on this show, I use them myself and I believe in them. Junk Be Gone. All right, let's welcome in the first grouping of panelists today. The little graphic at the bottom of the screen will tell you who these guys are and what they do, but it's Jimmy Hyams right there, Will Overstreet right here, Josh Ward, Bob Hodge. All right, gentlemen, the Vols jumped on Virginia with an opening TD, then it kind of sputtered a little bit. Then they caught fire late, put an end to it. The defense looked great the whole day. But I want to start by getting the fans involved before I get your takeaway. So let's go ahead and put in our poll of the day. Tennessee's offense versus Virginia was great as always, a bit worrisome, not good enough. We don't have anybody voting not good enough, though, but a bit worrisome. 49 points. 49 points, a bit worrisome. I want to see where this goes because there was a lot of social media stuff yesterday. We talked to people who were upset about the offense. They didn't score on every drive. So we'll put that up there. You tell us. You can hit that, use your smartphone, get the QR code, or you can go to sportsource.tv/polls and vote there. We appreciate you taking part and giving us your take on that. All right, now, I'll shut up. Will Overstreet. Biggest takeaway from that game for you?
Biggest takeaway is the improvement in the defense. Overall, just the speed that was on the field. You had a bunch of different new name guys that you hadn't seen before or maybe hadn't heard about, but all of a sudden made real impact. And you could see from their ability that, hey, these guys are going to make impact this year. There are going to be some guys that come out of this that you're going to wonder, are they going to be all SEC guys next year? Maybe not this year, but you got some guys that have shown growth from year 1 to year 2, or have transferred in and really added an impact that made this team clearly better. And I'm really talking about in that defensive front and that linebacker core right there. They got better since last year, and it was obvious.
I'll go running game. You had 287 yards. You did it without Cooper Mays. Yeah. You did it without 2 really good linemen from a year ago, Darnell Wright and Jerome Carvin. And most of the rushing yards were inside the tackles, right? Mm-hmm. So without Mays, I thought they might struggle a little bit. No, they didn't. Yeah. And they had 3 different running backs, all that had 12 or 13 carries. All were productive. God, Jalen Wright averaged 9.6 yards a carry. So to get 287 yards rushing without Mays and without the 2 really good players from a year ago, I thought the run game was real effective.
It looks like you've gone from a 2-horse backfield to a 3-horse backfield. Yes. Now with Sampson getting more carries. But we said last week, heck, we've said for a month, Ollie Lane. If Mays doesn't play, all eyes are going to be on Ollie Lane. Bravo to Ollie Lane. As you said, he played the first 2 or 3 runs were right in the A-gap, too. So it was good. They played well. All right. What do you got there, Josh?
Yeah, to both of their takeaways, I would add the depth of it. The depth of the amount of players that they showed they will count on defense. And we'll see, does that carry over? We'll get to what the defense really can be in the SEC during the show. But I think that they showed we're going to rotate on the defensive line. We have players that we can count on, same at linebacker. And in the run game, Dylan Sampson can be a real threat. Is he going to get 4 touchdowns a game? Probably not that far.
Heisman winner.
Yeah, the conversation changes, right? There comes your first Doak Walker after the Blitnikoff last year. But the dramatically different roster, meaning more depth, I think, was on display.
And I'm going to build on what Will said about the defense. And you can knock Virginia's offense all you want to. The defense looks so much more athletic. And Will pointed out how good the linebackers looked. And that is where Tennessee, for the past, 15 years, you've had a linebacker. You've had a guy that can play really well, and you sit there and say, might end up in the NFL. He looks really good. Well, I think your linebacking core right now is as solid as it's been. I don't know how far back you have to go. I don't want to dive into the 90s because those teams had such great linebackers. But just with the athleticism that they had, I mean, that's kind of you build a house, you do your drywall, it doesn't look good, and then the guys come in and finish it, and you go, man, that's really fantastic. When you got linebackers like that, that's what your defense can be. You can have problems, but if you've got good athletic linebackers, they can cover it up. And that really, really stood out to me. And I'm trying to be positive.
That's good. Anything else? Anything else big takeaways from this one? Let's talk Joe Milton, first of all. We're going to get to that in the offense a little later, too. But as we noted, the offense wasn't quite as smooth as it was last year. I don't know that it was quite as smooth when he started the Orange Bowl. At the same time, I don't know that I look at it and go, well, the problem is Joe Milton. It just simply doesn't look like everything's on the same page yet. And, it got better under Hendon Hooker. So maybe it just gets better. It was game 1, which Josh Heupel referenced. I did like the fact that Milton, after the game, talked about the fact that there were a couple of times where some guys on the team, these guys on the offense took a play or two off, and this offense is too good, this team is too good for us to take any place off. He's really taking over that leadership role. So it didn't look the same as when Hooker ran it, but I don't think I'm sitting there going, boy, Milton's the real bad problem here. I don't see that.
If anybody's pulling against that kid, you got a problem. Because he's been such a good kid since he's been here at Tennessee. I can't imagine anybody pulling against him. And I'm going to say something about the special teams because of getting into the return game looked really good. Now, once again, you got better athletes than Virginia did. Is your return game going to be able to be maybe not explosive the entire season, but that kind of solid?
Yeah.
And I came away really impressed by that. And your kicker didn't miss anything. Didn't particularly look good on some of them, but he didn't miss anything.
Well, Chuck, let me get everybody back to the Joe Milton question. Chuck, I'm getting you. Milton, your thoughts on Milton?
I thought he had one bad series. He had 3 consecutive throws that were off target.
Yeah.
He had a long pass to Keaton that could have very well been a touchdown, which was on series 2 maybe. So you wouldn't have had a 4 series in a row without a score, right? So I thought he ran the ball decently. I thought he read things well. I thought he threw to the right receiver most of the time. I thought he had a solid performance. And 21 out of 30, 201 yards, accounted for 4 touchdowns. I thought he played well.
Yeah, I thought his running ability looked better than it has in the past.
More involved than I did.
Yeah, because he's always
He called 1 or 2 to get him going straight ahead.
Right. Because in the past, it felt like he was forced to run and he didn't want to run.
Yes.
In this game, he took it, read the play, and say, I'm getting it. And so that was a little bit different because I was always like, man, with his body size and his ability, it shouldn't be a chore for him to run, and it's looked like that. So I thought that was much better.
I also thought he only threw one really bad pass. He threw one where the safety might have had a chance to intercept it. That was after the Keaton drop. But other than that, he threw some low, he threw some high, but I'm talking about really
Putting
bad
in a
passes.
danger zone,
I thought he only threw one of those.
And he almost, he would have had another touchdown with the Ramel Keaton catch. If he puts the ball, and this is the difference between NFL and college, if he puts the ball another foot in front of Dante Thornton to his left, the guy can't really get to it. But you're picking nits there. You're talking Manning and Brady type throwing. Josh, your thoughts on Joe Milton?
Yeah, I would also account for the offensive line has changed up. You don't have your typical center. So Ollie Lane's a very valuable player because of his experience in the offense. You can slide him over from guard to center when you don't have Cooper. If they can get Cooper back fully healthy, and I think that's his biggest goal is to make sure this isn't going to linger for him coming back.
Yeah, getting ready for Florida too. Yeah,
right.
That's the key.
Then you feel a lot better about the offensive line, which also probably creates more comfort for Joe Milton. There were probably some communication issues on the offensive line in game number one that affected at least a couple of plays where there was some pressure. So they have things to work on to improve offensively after putting up 49 points.
All right, very good. We told you last week, I went back over 5 years of Josh Heupel's games, every FBS game he's coached, and we found that there are certain stats that if they hit this stat, they're winning 85, 90% of the time. And I told you we'd track them this year. Let's go to the game gauge and see how they did. We told you last week, when they're over 150 yards rushing, it's almost an automatic victory. They got to 287 yesterday, so that's a green circle. 4.5 yards per carry or per rush, they were 5.5. They got the green circle. Didn't quite make it to 6.0 yards per play, 5.9, real close, real close. And then when they get 3 sacks in a game, they tear it up. They win all the time. They got 4 sacks yesterday, 2 from James Pierce, 2 from Tyler Barron. Now let's take a look. There were 3 other stats. Here you go. This is Josh Heupel's record is now 28-0 when allowing fewer than 28 points. When the opponent doesn't score 28, he is 28-0 as a head coach. When they score at least 30 points, his team does 43-8 as a head coach. This is interesting. It tells you how his teams take care of the ball. That's just the 10th game he's ever coached where his team lost the turnover battle.
Wow.
Pretty impressive. Another stat about that offense. And now he's up to 4-6. His record is insane when he wins the turnover battle. But there you go. That's part of it. Now let's tell you what's coming up on the rest of this show. Still to come, we got insights from 4 different VFLs, deep dives into the defense and the offense. Is Austin Peay a helpful second game? We'll let the VFLs talk about that. Cavaleris line, you can play along, keep taking part in our poll. Great as always has pushed ahead of a bit worrisome, by the way. So there you go. You see it right there. Great as always pushed ahead slightly over a bit worrisome. So were you worried, or is it great as always? Has anybody voted not good enough?
Yes.
Yes, they have. Wow. Okay.
There you go, Vol fans.
That's a tough audience. Tough audience. All right. When we come back, though, who was the best player on the field? What was the worst coaching move of the day? And what do you think about rugby punts? Come on back on the Sports Source.